Rennie Davis was an American anti-war activist who gained prominence in the 1960s. He was one of the Chicago 7 defendants charged for anti-war demonstrations and large-scale protests at the 1968 Democratic National Convention in Chicago. He had a prominent organizational role in the American anti-Vietnam War protest movement of the 1960s. In the early 1970s, Davis became a follower of Guru Maharaj Ji and his Divine Light mission. He began to travel as a spiritual lecturer. He also became a venture capitalist and founded the Foundation for a New Humanity to combine these goals. Davis was born in Lansing, Michigan, on May 23, 1940. His family moved to Berryville, Virginia, when he was in grade 7. His father, John, worked in nearby Washington, D.C., including serving as Chief of Staff to the Council of Economic Advisers under President Harry S. Truman. His mother, Dorothy, was employed as a school teacher. Davis studied at Oberlin College starting in 1958. After graduating, he went on to obtain a master's degree from the University of Illinois. In the 1960s, Davis became active in the Students for a Democratic Society. He was the national director of their project of community organizing programs in Ann Arbor, Michigan. He became increasingly allied with anti-war groups and helped organize protests and related events before and during the 1968 Democratic National Convention in Chicago for the National Mobilization Committee to End the War in Vietnam. Davis was one of the principal organizers of the National Mobilization Committee to End the War in Vietnam to plan anti-war protests at the 1968 Democratic National Convention. He negotiated unsuccessfully to gain a permit with Chicago City Council David Stahl. At a police riot in Grant Park on August 27, 1968, Davis was among protesters beaten by Chicago police officers, and he suffered a concussion. The Chicago 8 were 8 men charged with conspiracy, inciting to riot, and other charges related to the nonviolent and violent protests that took place in Chicago. The original 8 defendants, indicted by the grand jury on March 20, 1969, included Davis, Abby Hoffman, Jerry Rubin, David Dellinger, Tom Hayden, John Frohens, Lee Weiner, and Bobby Seale, a Black Panther leader. During the early part of the trial, Seale's case was separated from the others. The Chicago 7 defense attorneys were William Kunstler and Leonard Weinglass of the Center for Constitutional Rights. The judge was Julius Hoffman. The prosecutors were Richard Schultz and Tom Foran. The trial began on September 24, 1969. On October 9, the Illinois National Guard was called in to join the Chicago police for crowd control. As demonstrations grew outside the courtroom, Davis was found guilty of inciting to riot and sentenced to 5 years imprisonment. His conviction was overturned on appeal. In the early 1970s, Davis became a follower of Guru Maharaj Ji. He was a spokesperson and speaker at the widely publicized Millennium 73 event organized by Divine Light Mission in the Houston Astrodome. He described the arrival of Guru Maharaj Ji as the greatest event in history. If we knew who he was, we would crawl across America on our hands and knees to rest our heads at his feet. Texas Monthly quoted Davis as stating, "This city is going to be remembered through all the ages of human civilization." An op-ed in the San Francisco Sunday Examiner speculated at the time as to whether Davis had undergone a lobotomy, and suggested, if not, maybe he should try one. Davis later became a venture capitalist and lecturer on meditation and self-awareness. He created the Foundation for a New Humanity, a technology development and venture capital company commercializing breakthrough technologies. He appeared on Larry King Live, Barbara Walters, CNN, Phil Donahue, VH1, and other network television programs. He consulted and provided advice in business strategies for Fortune 500 companies. Davis returned to Chicago for the 1996 Democratic National Convention to speak at the Festival of Life in Grant Park. He also appeared on a panel with activist Tom Hayden discussing a progressive counterbalance to the religious right. In an article published in the Iowa Source in 2005, Davis said, if you were to do a survey of what causes misery on Earth, it would tend to fall into three broad categories. 1. We can call systems. The economy, AIDS, terrorism, things that are systems in nature. The second would be a list of everybody to blame. Bush is the cause of my misery. My ex-wife. My boss. The third would be things that come utterly out of left field. A tornado through town. A tsunami. Events that are not in our apparent control. What this huge list would have in common, something everybody would agree with, is that the cause of misery are things outside myself. But the cause of our misery is absolutely, positively not at all what we believe it to be. This is not a new view. C.E.